Hey everyone, what's up and welcome into Best on the Board here at The Athletic. It is Friday, October 8th. Week 5 of the NFL is our topic for today's show on Best on the Board. Michael Beller and Casey Joyner going to take you through our favorite plays for Week 5. Week 5, of course, already underway with the Rams picking up a 26-17 victory over the Seahawks on Thursday Night Football. Casey, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Hey, great. That was a fun game last night.
Yeah, it was. It was especially for those of us who, maybe had the Rams at minus 2.5 and maybe had Darrell Henderson going over 64.5 rushing yards. It was definitely fun for those of us who had that. Although I will say, I was debating between, I'm in a home league. I'm in some dire running back straits, and I was debating. It's a relatively deep league, and I was debating. I needed to start 2 out of Mike Davis, Alex Collins, and Latavius Murray. And I just got mix those guys up, put them in a bag, pick out 2. Any 2 of the 3 are liable to be the best 2 of the 3. And I had Alex. I was Mike Davis, Latavius, Mike Davis, and Latavius. And I was like, you know what? Let's throw Alex Collins in there. So now I'm already it's like I have to sit with this for 72 hours now. Right? I hate that. I hate when you make what feels like the wrong move on Thursday, and you just have to sit with that knowledge for 3 days until the games happen again.
And knowing that if Russ had played another quarter and a half, maybe Collins gets more touch. If you knew going in that Russ is going to be down for that much time, you'd never put Collins in. So,
never. So, but hey, that's the game we love, and that's part of why. That's part of what makes it fun, the unpredictability of it, and that's what we talk about in the gambling world too. As I said, we've got 3 picks a piece for you. Let's start running through them now, Casey. The first game that you want to talk about this one is it's an interesting one to me because when I first saw the line on Panthers and Eagles, it was 3.5 to start, and I was like, man, that feels like it should be a little bit higher. And now we've seen it go down to 3, and so it's a pure stay away for me because I feel like the Panthers should be 5.5 point favorites in this game. And so the fact that it's been stubbornly right at a field goal scares me off, but it doesn't scare you off.
It doesn't scare me off. I'm with you. It's because you usually get obviously 3 points for being the home team, and so that means that bettors think they're even. They're not. And I cover the Eagles for the Philadelphia Inquirer, and I did an article this week, a deep dive, so I really pay a lot of attention to the Eagles. And I did a deep dive as to why the Eagles need to stop their pass-happy ways and lean on the ground game. The owner and the analytics team wants them to be pass-happy. This is a team that ought to be able to run the football. That's all they should be doing. And Sirianni is not going to take that advice. He's not going to take that approach. It's going to be a big problem. They got a road matchup against a powerhouse Carolina defense. They play a 3-3-5 stack defense where they stack the linebackers behind the defensive lineman, and then they blitz off of that. And it's so creative, and so few teams do it to the extent that they do it. The Carolina leads the league in pass pressure rate. Panthers could also potentially get McCaffrey back for this game. Mm-hmm. And they got multiple pass to attack in Eagles defense. Last 2 games, get this. They've allowed 360 rushing yards, 851 offensive yards, 58 first downs, and 83 points. And they could be missing Lane Johnson for this game. The Eagles could. Mm-hmm. So they could be shorthanded on the offensive line again. I'm looking at all that, and I'm with you. I'm like, why is Carolina not a much bigger favorite than they are? So I think they're going to cover this easily.
So that's what I'm saying. So why, all those things you say make sense when you look at what these teams have done this season. Carolina has had a far more impressive season to date, and that feels sort of trite to say. Carolina's 3-1, and the Eagles are 1-3. So that seems like an easy sort of layup thing to say, but also the manner in which they have gotten to where they've gotten. The Panthers have had a far more impressive season. Right? The Eagles beat the Falcons 32-6 in Week 1, and excuse me, what have they really done since that point? They got run out of the stadium against the Cowboys in Week 3. Last week against the Chiefs, the offense looked okay, but the score looked a little bit better than that game actually was. Chiefs had that game pretty much in hand early in the third quarter. And then a 17-11 loss to the 49ers. I mean, this team really hasn't done much of anything eye-opening since Week 1. So it's just all that is to say that this line just really confuses the heck out of me. and it scares me, Casey. I got to admit it.
It's the Cowboys game last week. People look at the Cowboys and they see what happened with Carolina, and they thought, "Oh, Carolina is not that good." It's like, no, people, Dallas is that good. That's the thing. That game said how good Dallas was. Not anything bad about Carolina.
And that was something I actually talked about on the Monday episode of this show when I'm making my early picks, and I had the Cowboys among those early picks. Not going to double down on them here because the line hasn't changed at all. But yes, I think it's time to start taking the Cowboys seriously, as certainly not in that top tier of teams, maybe not even in that second tier of teams, especially if you're saying that second tier is teams like Cleveland and such teams like that. I wouldn't put Dallas in that, but definitely the next group and potentially playing their way into that second tier as the season goes on. Our first pick of the day, you've got the Panthers -3 against the Eagles. Big game on Sunday Night Football this week, Chiefs and Bills. That's where I'm going to go for my first pick. I'm playing into it. I'm just going to buy right in. Let's go over 56.5. I know that, that feels, I don't want to say like a sucker play, but it feels like that's where the odds makers want to steer us here. And 56.5 points, 57 points, that's a lot of points. No matter what offenses are on the field, it's a lot of points to score in an NFL game. But the Chiefs are they're an over team. That's what they are this season. They are an over team. And you look at what they've done through the first 4 weeks of the season. Week 1 against Cleveland, that game gets to 62 points. Week 2 against the Ravens, 71 points. Week 3 against the Chargers, 54 points, which actually by the time that game kicked off wasn't under. Going to talk about those Chargers in just a second here. And then last week against the Eagles, 72 points. This is an over team, and it's because of what they do on both sides of the ball. We can talk about the Chiefs offense till we're blue in the face, but everyone knows what they do. That defense is very, very gettable. And with the way the Bills have been going the last couple of weeks, I do think they're going to get them. So as much as this just feels like me showing up and saying, just like taking the easy way out and saying, oh yeah, Chiefs, Bills, it's going to be high scoring, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't think this number is high enough. And it's not like Vegas can set an over-under at 61.5. Like, they need some sort of two-way action on it. But with the way these two teams are going, with the way the Chiefs are going on both sides of the ball, I do think that this is a game that plays to the script. A lot of people are expecting 38-35, 35-30, something along those lines. And I really don't think we're sweating this over by early in the fourth quarter.
The thing about the Chiefs is back in 2019, Andy Reid realized that we can't get into shootout games because his record in shootout games with that team is about 500. And he tried to get out of those games in 2019. He's trying to do it in 2020, 2021. So far, he can't do it. The thing is, opponents know they need to get the Chiefs into that type of game too. Opponents realize that's what we need to do is get them into a high scoring contest.
Mm-hmm.
We can do that because that makes them, you get into that kind of a contest, shootouts, even the most powerful offenses in NFL history. I've done studies on this. The most powerful offense in NFL history there. If you take out a couple of outlier teams like the 2007 Patriots, those teams are just over 500, like win 60% of their games in shootouts. If you're Buffalo and you go in there going, look, if we get in a shootout, we know we can win it at least 40% of the time. And our offense might be that good too. So we can make this a 50-50 proposition. I think you like your chances. So that's one thing, is that the Bills are probably motivated to go the same route too.
Yeah, I think that both teams want to play this way. Both teams have to play this way almost, and just going to trust the Chiefs' track record so far this season. 54, the low mark in a Chiefs game so far this year, and that gets us a field goal away from the over here. And the Bills are going to play a whole lot faster on their side of the ball than we've seen the Chargers play to this point of the season. I really like the over 56.5, and what we're hoping should be a really, really fun game between two big-time AFC contenders on Sunday Night Football. Obviously, you're here with us on Best on the Board. You think that football's just a little bit more fun when you've got some skin in the game. Our betting partner at BetMGM is going to help you do that. Right now, you can bet 10 to win $200 plus get a free 3-month subscription to The Athletic. And that is not just for new subscribers to The Athletic. If you're an existing Athletic subscriber, we're going to tack 3 months on to your subscription for free. Just go to betmgm.com/TABest. Use the promo code TABest, and you'll get that $10 to win $200 plus a free 3-month subscription to The Athletic. Again, betmgm.com/TABest with the promo code TABest. It is a new customer offer for BetMGM customers, and terms and conditions apply. All right, KC, second pick a piece here, and let's go from the literal let's go to the literal opposite end of the spectrum. We're talking about all the points we're expecting in Chiefs and Bills, 56.5 the over-under. Now let's jump on to the lowest over-under of the week. It is Patriots-Texans, 39.5. And here's the craziest thing about this one. I don't know if I've ever seen a game, KC, that has had an over-under this low with the favorite being favored by 8.5 or 9 points. And that's exactly what we've got in this game.
The problem is that Houston's got a quarterback, Davis Mills. He's got no business being under center in an NFL game. Davis Mills last week went 11 for 21 for 87 yards, 0 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He took 3 sacks for minus 26 yards. You take all that into account, he nets not even 3 yards per drop back. Not like, I mean, this is just abysmal. Now imagine that you got that player now facing a Bill Belichick defense. I mean, taking nothing away from Buffalo. Buffalo's a very good defense in that matchup. They've got very good corners and such. They can play shutdown football if the matchup's right. But this is a Bill Belichick defense, and I know Stephon Gilmore's gone. He didn't play from this year anyway. But I mean, Bill Belichick's defense this year has still been very good. Look what they did last week against Tampa Bay. Mm-hmm. Patriots could also be down 4 starting offensive linemen potentially. They've got between injuries and the COVID-19 listed, their potential to have that few of offensive linemen. Their offense has been playing that particularly well anyway. It's not like this is a dynamic offense. And I think, by the way, David Culley, the Houston coach, is going to want to play close to the best. He's going to want to flip the script and say, the only way we've got a chance to win this game is to go low scoring and try and run the clock on that. So I'm looking at going, I can see the Patriots winning this game. 24, 27 is what I like, but I see them maybe having a cap at 24, and I just can't see Davis Mills scored. I don't see him scoring 20 points against the Patriots.
You gonna watch this game?
It'll be on the background. Let's put it that way. I'll watch it because I have an interest in it for this, but yeah, otherwise it's going to be that's one of those games when you start to break it down on tape, and I go my all-season tape breakdowns, you go, okay, people say I love to do this for a living. It's like, not when you got to break this game down, you wouldn't.
Man, I used to work for Stats Inc. And this was the sort of game that you would actually love to get because, I mean, it's like 2.5 hours, right? And you have to go through every single play and code, how many guys are on the line and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh man, like 2.5 hours, like what, 47 plays per team. This is going to be beautiful. Like, give me this game. So I'm done. I don't want to do this 70-point game where each team's running 80 plays. No, forget about it. This is exactly the game that I want. And yeah, I mean, I'm not going to play this because that's just such a low number, but it does feel like under or nothing in this Patriots-Texans game. I'm going to go with an under. It's one of the teams that I referenced, and it's probably the second most exciting game on the slate this week. Browns and Chargers, which would be, I think, a really fun game as well in LA. The Chargers are 2.5-point favorites in this game at last check. The total, 46.5, and I really like the under here. I think there is a sort of a default belief with the Chargers that because we always talk about their offense and because of what they've gotten Justin Herbert, that they are this, really offensively fueled team. And while they have a good and pretty efficient offense, they actually play things relatively slow. And you find the proof of that in their scores so far this season, right? I mean, you go back to week 1 against Washington, a game they win 20-16. Week 2 against Dallas, a game they lose 20-17. Then you go to the Chiefs game in week 3, game I already referenced, 30-24, which sure, 54 points is a lot, but that was under the total there. And by far the lowest scoring game that the Chiefs have played in. And we've already talked about what the Chiefs do and what they make other teams do. And then last week against the Raiders, 28-14. So first of all, something else that should be jumping out at you, pretty good defense being played by the Chargers this season. Talking about holding a Raiders team that had been very high scoring the first 3 weeks to 14, holding the Chiefs to 24 in a victory there, holding the Cowboys to 20. Like, they're playing some really strong defense. Not a surprise when you add a head coach like Brandon Staley, and then they are happy to slow things down on the offensive side of the ball as well. You look on the other side of this game, you find a Cleveland team that we know is always going to live with its running game, and now is playing with a starting quarterback in Baker Mayfield, who's got a shoulder issue, and he's going to start in this game, but they're going to want to play that way too. You got two teams, I think, that are happy to let this game be slow and let this game be played into the low 20s and not much higher than that. And even if they would maybe want to get it going a little bit more, I'm not sure either team is necessarily built to do that. So I really like this under. I mean, 46.5 is not, I don't think anyone's given anything away with 46.5. I think it's a fair number for this to be at. But I just think that we're looking at like a 24-20 sort of game here with the styles that these two teams play. So I really like this under. Absolutely one of my favorite plays of the week.
And you look at last week, 14-7 for the Browns. I mean, against Minnesota, you go into that contest thinking, oh, wow, Minnesota, it's going to be high-scoring game. Minnesota offense. I did a tape breakdown of it with another coach this week, and there's a lot of things that the Browns defense did very well, and the Browns defense is capable of getting into that sort of contest too. And plus, if you're the Browns and you've got an injured quarterback, you might say, okay, we want to play this sort of game too. If the Chargers want to invite us to go, a slugfest to run fest, okay, we'll go ahead and do that. We've got two really good backs. We'll go ahead and go that route too. So yeah, I'm with you on this one.
Yeah, we've seen the Browns be able to play both ways. Right? You go back to week 1 against the Chargers against the Chiefs, and they put up like 22 points in the first half, and you did see them hit some big plays down the field. That was a game that that Odell Beckham was not back on the field for this team yet. So they can do both things. It's, the signature of a good team, which the Browns certainly are. But that's not the way they want to play. And it's definitely not the way they want to play when Baker Mayfield's banged up and when they don't have Jarvis Landry available either. So they're going to want to lean on Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. They're going to want to lean on their defense. And the Chargers are just going to do what they do. Why would they possibly change the script of what's been so successful for them this season, getting out to that 3-1 start, a win over the Chiefs, the only loss coming to the Cowboys, who, as we just talked about, a very good team in their own right. Like, this is a very good Chiefs team that can win the way it wants to play, or a Chargers team. This is the way that they want to play. I love this one. Staying under. Let's wrap this up, KC, with a couple of player props. Let's go to you first. Tom Brady looking for a bounce back game for himself individually on the stat line. You think he gets it?
I do. It's over 305.5 passing yards. He's gone over 300 yards in 2 out of 4 games this year. The only reason he didn't get that against Atlanta is because the Bucs got really far ahead, and he still had 276 yards. He's still pretty darn close, but they could get in that scenario against Miami. But per Sport Radar, Miami's allowed 461 vertical passing yards on 41 vertical attempts over the past 3 weeks. The yardage total is 5th highest. The attempts total is tied for 4th highest. So they've got some significant coverage issues. So do the Bucs. The Bucs have all kinds of issues in their secondary with Jamel Dean and Antoine Winfield, and they already lost Murphy Bunting, but they've got injuries all over the place in their secondary. And Miami, they've got a coach who realize, first off, they're not going to run the football against Tampa. They know this. Miami's offensive
line. They're not running
the
football against anyone.
No, they're not against anyone. And Tampa, if their defense does nothing else this year, it still can stop the run. So you're going to go after those weaknesses in the secondary. You're going to be aggressive. I like their creative play calling too. So I think they could keep it in going in shootout mode for a little while. And if that happens, I mean, if you're Miami, you can run the ball. Or sorry, if you're Tampa, you can run the ball if you want, because Miami's run defense is terrible. But I don't think that's what they're going to do. They'll go vertical and say, look, you guys can't stop the vertical pass. That's what we're going to do. So I think that Miami's able to keep this in shootout mode for long enough to where Brady will get over that 305.5 yard mark.
Yeah, Bucks 10-point favorites in this game at home. Going to be one of the more popular survivor plays across the board this week, and with good reason. My one player prop that I'm going to be playing this week after the Darrell Henderson victory last night. How about this one? So we do a show on Fridays on the fantasy football side of things, where we go through every single game and offer up a bet. And we don't necessarily bet them all, but it's just a fun way to talk through every single game. And some we do bet, some we don't, and it just forces me to look at every single angle in every single game. And Titans Jaguars is like right away, it's like, nope, cross this off. Who cares? Not touching it. Boring. Don't trust either team. Staying away. But I was clicking around, and Laviska Shenault, when I looked at it actually yesterday for the first time, his rushing yard total was 1.5 at -120. This morning, it's up to 2.5 at -105. And like, I love this. I love this, Casey. He's going to, with DJ Shark out for the season, Laviska's going to be out there every single 2-wide set. I mean, that's just going to be the fact. Maybe not every single, not literally 100%, but something close to 100%. Maybe statistically insignificant, less than 100% is how often Viska's going to be out there in 2-wide sets. And I mean, they need to get him involved. We were excited about him before Travis Etienne got drafted to Jacksonville because of the way that they could use him, that they can make him a sort of Curtis Samuel, Robert Woods type player who's getting 6-7 targets per game and 3 carries per game. And now with Shark out, joining Etienne on the IR for the season, like, he's going to get, I think, a lot of opportunities to just have the ball in his hands. And I just don't see a scenario in which we're not getting Shenault 2 or 3 carries a game every single game. And so this number right here, 2.5 rushing yards, is the mark for him. Give him 1 or 2 carries, and I just feel comfortable that he's going to turn that into positive yardage. Obviously, the risk here is that wide receiver carries can go really, really wrong, right? 1 carry could be -8 yards, and then this has no chance. So that's really where the risk is here. But so long as he avoids that negative play, he's going to get the opportunities, and that's really why I like this. The opportunities certainly are going to be there for him.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that Urban Meyer is probably going to be spending a lot of time in the coaching room this week for some reason. I think he's going to want to, for some reason, I just think he's going to spend a lot of time there. And Meyer has shown that he can be a very creative play caller. So I think I say that jokingly, half jokingly, but I also do think that he's going to want to dive into getting some creative things going. And that's something, because now, again, with Chark on, you've got to find ways to manufacture more offense. And I think that Meyer's now going to lean on some play calling creativity and getting Shenault on a couple of jet sweeps or out of the backfield. I think it's something that could be. I think that's the reason that his rushing yards total went up, because people are realizing that that's something that the Jaguars are going to need to do.
We haven't seen it in a big way yet from the Jaguars this season with Urban Meyer, but go back to his college career. I mean, go back Percy Harvin at Florida, Curtis Samuel, the guy who I'm just referencing, Curtis Samuel at Ohio State with Urban Meyer as the head coach. Like, he has always been able to find a way to use players like this in creative ways. And now I think the hand is forced for them with Shark out for the rest of the season. And it just ups the snap count. It ups the snap count. It ups everything for Laviska. And that's really more than half the battle here, is just being on the field and using him. We saw it in week 4 against the Bengals, the way that he was just used more prolifically once Shark went out with that injury. And I think that's something that continues all season. So let's get on the Viska train, over 2.5 rushing yards. And hey, we don't even have to pay the full juice, minus 105 on this one. That's going to wrap up this episode of Best on the Board. You can still get yourself in the door at The Athletic for a 50% off. If you have not gotten in already, go to theathletic.com/best. You'll get 50% off your first year to The Athletic, and that promo running all the way through October 20th. So that door is closing soon. Get in while you can. For Casey Joyner, I am Michael Beller. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for watching on YouTube. Those of you who did, good luck this weekend. Happy betting. We will talk to you next week.